Has to walk in the hood.
And he goes, well, I'll do it. And then as soon as he accepted, we're kind of like, shit, he's really going to do this. We're like, well, damn, we just won all this money. Now we're not going to get it. But we're like, yeah, he's not going to do it. Next thing I know, he was walking out the door and he walked all the way back.
Oh, how much was the debt? How much debt he cleared?
$2,000. $2,000, yeah.
$2,000.
Yeah.
The weirdest thing you've ever seen happen at a poker table, and I'm sure you've seen it all.
The weirdest thing was happening when I was actually at my first casino, Garden City. It's not a very good story. Let's just say that. But a lady walked in and dropped her baby in the middle of a poker table and said, you take care of him.
If you could have dinner with any poker player, living or dead, who would it be?
It's going to be Mike Sexton. I love the guy. I mean, I went to so many dinners with him already, but the last one that I went with him to was just like, you know, the 50 hours before that I've been with him. And he tells the same stories, and I could listen to him all day long. I mean, it was so.
We're live, guys. We're live.
Let's go.
Today, we dive deep into one of the most brilliant minds in the poker industry. He's a true titan in the poker field. He's not just a name. He's a trailblazer in every sense of the word. He started as a chip runner, then was a dealer, then became a tournament director. And today, he's the executive director of the World Poker Tour. Without further ado, the one and only Matt Savage. What's up, guys? What's up, Matt?
Hey, did you read that, or did you have that already in your head?
I did read it. Yeah.
Okay. I couldn't tell.
We have my version of a teleprompter, and we have Jacob Mast, TD at TGT. He's very known in the local poker scene. We have a lot of questions for you, Matt. Let's dive in. Before poker, I learned you wanted to become a professional bowler.
Way back in the day, yeah, that was a long time ago. Found out there was no money in it, so I got out.
Got out quick, huh?
Yeah.
What year was that?
Oh, I was probably in the early 90s, late 80s.
Okay. And then I heard you're selling baseball cards, like memorabilia.
That was even before that. I've been was doing that in the late 80s for sure.
And an alarm technician. So,
yes.
So you can break
I'm not very technical with electricity and things like that. So that was a stretch, but yes, it was a job that I had. Basically, I've been working I've never had a month off since I'm 14 years old. So
wow.
I've had a lot of jobs back in the day, but always tried to keep working. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Hustle. The hustle is... tell us about, I mean, I watched a couple of podcasts. I dove deep in your background about the transition from being a dealer to TD. I heard about carpal tunnel.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Basically, I was a poker dealer. I love poker dealing. You know, it's hard to say if I wouldn't still be doing it today if I didn't develop carpal tunnel. And when I got that, I was so afraid. You know, what am I going to do? I loved dealing. I made a lot of money doing it. I worked overtime, and that's probably what got me. I worked too much and kind of burned myself out. Interesting story. When I started dealing, first time I was dealing like one of the big games, they said, "Oh, I can't believe we got another left-handed dealer here." And I said, "Wait, I'm not left-handed." And I looked down and I was dealing with my left hand. So maybe that has something to do with it. The fact that I was dealing with the wrong hand.
How did that even happen?
I have no idea. I just started dealing left-handed, and I don't know why. Or maybe that was my dominant hand. And I never knew it. It might be why I'm such a bad golfer, because I'm right-handed and I can't play golf worth a damn. But for the most part, I was, just burned myself out, and I ended up going on the floor and becoming a floorman, a lead floorman, and then because of that, our tournament director at Bay 101 went on vacation, and so I filled in for him for that because of a recommendation of a local player out there that said he's already running golf tournaments. You should put him in poker tournaments. And that's kind of how I started running poker tournaments way back in the day.
At that point, what was your history in poker? Like, how much did you know about TDing? Did you know what
I had been not TDing. I'd played some tournaments. I had not been a TD, but I had definitely played in the poker room. And I wasn't really an adept poker tournament player, and still not to this day. But I definitely enjoyed it. And I love the camaraderie of the poker tournament, especially back in those days, because it was, a local card room. We saw the same players come in and play every day. And it was, definitely a different world than it was today. That's for sure.
Talking about you playing poker, we pulled up the Hendon Mob. Just to put it in context. First recorded score, April of 2001. North Carolina.
Yeah, it probably goes a little bit further back than that, but back then they didn't really track stuff as well as they would. And I'm telling you, literally, people that have hundreds of caches, and from the early '90s and late '80s and stuff, a lot of those things aren't even noted. So, some people have gone back and tried to relocate and track down what they won and things like that, but very difficult to do. And Hendon Mob does a great job of making sure that those things are legit. So, they might not even post it for you anyway. So I really think that the Hendon Mob is one of the industry's leaders and things that they did back in the day. The poker industry wouldn't be today where it is today without those four guys in the Hendon Mob: Ross Boatman, Marty Boatman, Ram, and Joe Beavers. Really started a great thing when they started the Hendon Mob, which is now the GPI.
When was Hendon Mob founded? Do you know?
When I was back at the World Series of Poker, was the first time I ever met these guys. It was in 2002, and they were just kind of like bringing it on scene. So I'd say it was right around 2002. I know they'd been working on it around 2001, but that's kind of really when it broke out.
Yeah, it's a great concept for sure. You know what? Yesterday, I was talking to somebody on Twitter, and they want to come on the podcast. The guy is the professor at the USF, by the way, and he mentioned one of the topics we want to talk about is Hendon Mob. And people always, like, if you post on Facebook, like you have a package to sell and you post your scores on Hendon Mob, people right away jump and be like, oh, you can't measure somebody's success on their Hendon Mob score. The first thing I say is like, that's not Hendon Mob's job. It's not to put your bottom line. It's just to put your scores. It's pretty straightforward. And the fact that people argue that, it's just doesn't make much sense.
Yeah, there was even attempts back in the day to do how many events you played versus how much you won. And, to be honest, it's not really a smart business model, right?
Not at all.
Nobody really wants to be known as, hey, I played 100 tournaments, only cashed in 2 of them, but I made money, or I cashed in 50 tournaments out of 100 and lost money, right? So nobody wants to know that or have that information out there. And as a player, you really don't or shouldn't want that information out there anyway.
No, there's too many negatives and not much positive for, having your bottom line out there for the whole public to see.
Absolutely.
Matt, do you think there's a way maybe they could like assign player numbers where players don't get mixed up? That seems to be a big confusion with Hendon Mob.
Yeah, and I think that it's something they also looked into in the past, and like a player ID, that type of thing. There's definitely some confusion, and a lot of people that care about these things and care about these stats have made those corrections. People sometimes use their middle name, sometimes they have 3 names, sometimes they use an abbreviation, and Hendon Mob does a really, really good job now of correcting those things, but there's still some that exist out there. And I don't think that a global number is a bad idea. I actually think it's a good one.
Yeah,
and
I think so.
All these new clock systems out there, like K Hold'em and Poker Atlas, and the things that are going all over the world, I think that there's some way for that to happen.
That's a good point, Jacob. So you're saying about people that have the same last name, right?
Well, I enter a lot of results, and sometimes when I look somebody up, it'll show 3 David Garcias, and it'll show somebody from California, somebody from New York, somebody from Virginia. Well, I'm entering results in Florida. Which one do I choose? Like I have no way of knowing if somebody's just visiting here and they made a score. I'd like them to get it on their Hendon Mob, but I don't have a number that they could give me that make sure it goes on the right person.
That's a great point. I'm sure it could be addressed, and they can fix it in the hand, like Matt said. Just assign a number for each player. But the thing is, let's say they have a number. How are you going to differentiate which one is which? Like the player is playing at your venue and they have a number on Hendon Mob. How are you going to differentiate?
No, that player's number would be entered wherever they go for any event. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they would have a picture assigned, and maybe they scan an ID in. I'm sure they could find a solution that would, identify the person, because at the end of the day, the people want those scores on their name. That's what it's for.
100%. Hendon Mob for a poker player is like a credit score for civilians.
Yep.
Another thing, when I looked at your Wikipedia, I saw you were in the movie Lucky You, and I forgot about that fact.
How could you forget about it? I mention it every single day.
You know what?
He shows a picture of the checks every time.
That's right.
Let's see that one scene of the last hand in the movie where you're announcing the hand. That was not a bad movie for poker, and I
really liked it. I actually like, the more I watch it, and I think the more people watch it, the better it becomes. So keep watching it. It's on Amazon Prime for $3.99.
Turn is a deuce of spades.
I know that voice.
Another 5 to go.
All right. He bets 500,000.
Call.
Buck calls. Pot is now $2 million.
Now you smooth call. The book says if you're holding the bullets, now would be the time to go over the top. Go all in.
Gotta love the talk during the hand.
The river? River's the 8 of hearts.
So here we are. Here we are. How much do you have? About 650. I think I have your Huckleberry.
Jacob, you know the scene?
All in.
LC Cheever is all in.
I've seen it a couple times.
Huck calls. He'll double up. He'll be out.
Call.
Huck calls. LC has 2 kings.
I don't love the scene, to be honest. So
I'm gonna ask about the setup and who helped them, like as far as like table talk and all that stuff. Like, how much did you play a role in that?
Kings. Nice hand.
They're good. Woo! LC Cheever wins the pot.
Notice there was only 650,000 in chips he had, which is a lot of chips back then, because back then it was dollar for dollar. So he played a $10,000 event, you got 10,000 in chips. It's the way it should be today, but unfortunately, people like Jacob and all these other TDs out there want to give more and more chips there for these tournaments. Are you the guy giving 100K in chips for a $100 tournament, Jacob?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, is that you? Please tell me that's not you. There was
what? This is a topic on its own. We're gonna bring it up, and I talked with someone that doesn't want to be mentioned here, but they're watching in the background, about the difference between giving 20K starting stack and 100K starting stack. And in Jacob's defense, I'm gonna tell you, like, I played the $100 100K starting stack. I love the format. It's just fun on a Friday night. $100, you're getting 100K. He's changed the structure. The blind starts at 500 big blind, and he skipped. There's levels that are skipped. So we're gonna talk about that later on. A difference between 20K starting stack, not skipping any levels. All the levels are there, like the WPT Hollywood, and the daily $100 that Jacob has on Fridays. It's $100, $130, I think, 100K. It's actually running tonight.
You must have a big budget to buy all those extra chips. A lot of casinos don't have those budgets.
We have to put dollar signs, right? You like that?
I always suggested when everybody wanted to give more and more chips, I suggested just getting a crayon out and writing an extra 0 on every chip.
When I started, we used red chips.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I took those out of the World Series, by the way. I was the one that got rid of the $5 chips at the World Series.
They had $5?
Yeah, they had
5 unit. 5 unit.
5 unit, yeah.
Huh. Let's talk about Lucky You real quick. What was your role in setting up the scenes and stuff? How much did they rely on you as far as?
Well, I initially got hired on as an advisor for the tournament section of the tournament because, you know, obviously it was loosely based around the final table of the World Series of Poker in 2003. But it was, you know, they hired me as an advisor to be on that thing. And so when the role came up as tournament director, I went and auditioned for it. But the first time I auditioned, I didn't pass because it was a satellite tournament director. So then the director of the tournament director of the World Series came up. I auditioned again, and I got the role. So I was an advisor to a lot of the tournament side of things, and then I was also, you know, hired as an actor to be in the movie as well. But the reason why I auditioned for it is because I really wanted to be in the movie if I was going to be around and be in LA for that much time. And it turned out to be a really good job. It was lucrative for me. It was good. And, you know, it's something that I'll always have, and my family will always be able to share. Hey, there's your dad or there's your grandfather in the movie Lucky You.
Was there any aspirations to become an actor ever?
No, not at all. But they did use me a lot for the timing, and I did have a lot of lines in that movie. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Okay, let's talk about the foundation of the TDA in 2001, which that was news to me because anytime there's a ruling, sometimes I share rulings on Facebook and I ask people's opinions. Sometimes I tag you, and I'm going to mention one ruling that happened actually at Silks. It was the first time I had an interaction with you online, and I tagged you in the post. But let's talk about foundation of the TDA in 2001. How did that come about?
So in 2000, around the 2000s, I was playing a lot of tournaments around the Bay Area where I was from. And I would be playing, and the rules everywhere I went were different. And it's very frustrating as a player when you go to an event and the rules are different from table to table, from venue to venue, from floor person to floor person. So I had this idea of trying to standardize the rules of poker. And because of doing that, I got invited to be to go down to the WSOP, meet those tournament directors. And to be honest, it's the first time I ever walked into the World Series of Poker was 2001. And went up to the tournament director and said, hey, I'd really like to try and do something. Do you have, you know, some time we could sit down and talk about it? We did that. And when I asked him if we could standardize the rules, he said, it's been tried before. It's never really going to be a thing. So I think you should just, you know, forget about that. Luckily, I knew Jan Fisher, Linda Johnson, and Dave Lamb, who ended up being on the TDA board, the initial TDA board. Mm-hmm. But Linda invited me to be on the tail end of her WPIC, which is a World Poker Industry Conference, which was going on in the early 2000s. And so the day after that, we met. There was 25 of us. I think there was 24 local and national TDs and one international TD. And we all met in a room and came up with the idea of the TDA. And basically, that's how it started. So I founded it along with Linda Johnson and Jan and David. And because of that, you know, it's the rules that are used in tournaments basically around the world. I've gone to different countries all over the world, and to see the TDA on there, you know, it's kind of a legacy of mine, and I'm proud that I've been able to, you know, put the rules into tournaments anywhere I go, and basically everywhere I go, I make sure that they use the TDA rules. And I haven't found one lately in the last 10, 15 years that doesn't use them. So,
Matt, you make it sound so easy. You know, anytime you want to introduce change, there's always resistance. Anytime you propose any change in anything. So you make it sound like you just had a meeting with these guys and TDA was founded. There was no resistance, no hard work to be done?
Well, most of the resistance came in the rules themselves. You know, everybody thought the idea at that time, you know, would be very difficult to get going, but I was very persistent. And, you know, having a name like Linda Johnson, the Poker Hall of Famer, you know, bracelet winner, somebody that has that standing in the industry already, you know, the first lady of poker, you know, having that influence really helped. Obviously, she was very instrumental in that. And all of the big tournament directors really responded, you know, at that time. And they really took advantage of the fact that I was persistent and the fact that we were going to try to do something that was good for the players. It wasn't for the tournament directors that we made these rules. It was for the players, so that you can go to a casino, you know, maybe go to Jacob's Casino, or go to, you know, the Wynn or the World Series, or go to any WPT event and know that the rules are going to be the same everywhere you go. And to me, that's the legacy of the TDA. That's the standard of the TDA. It's an international standard, and that's what we want. And I think that's what we've achieved.
I think it's, go ahead,
Carl,
Jacob.
I don't know if you know, but they do a TDA summit, I think, every other year, and they actually have one this summer. And I signed up for the first time, so I'm planning on going to that.
It's held by Matt. It's he runs it.
Yep, absolutely. It's going to be June 29th and 30th at the Aria. So if you're out there watching and you have a local TD that is interested in coming, please have them sign up. Just go to pokertda.com, register, come out. I'd love to meet you. If I haven't met you at this point, if you have something that is really bothering you or want to be brought up at the TDA, maybe there's a rule that you don't like or think this could be changed or something like that, or improved, we're always happy and open to doing that. And the way the TDA works basically is there's a room of us, and now it's about 200 people that go into that room. And, you know, if we come up with a rule that's something new, we'll basically bring it to the audience and say, what do you like about it? What don't you like about it? Can you live with it, is what we say. And if everybody can do it and everybody can live with the ruling being one way, I always say it's better. Whether you like the rule or not, if everybody's doing it the same way, it's better for the players, and that's what we're about.
That's why our incognito friend told me that you're for the people. Another thing is, what was the main goal was to make, you know, standardize the rules as far as tournaments. Is there any monetary gain from the TDA? Does it bring any revenue?
There actually isn't. We've luckily been able to have some sponsors over the last few years. We had Bravo for a long time. This year it's going to be Poker Atlas, as it was last time. And, you know, without that, you know, those things probably don't even happen, because, you know, there are some costs that come up with it. Luckily, we've got PokerGo as a sponsor as well this year, and they're giving us a studio, which is amazing to have that. Tim Duckworth, Maury Eskandani have just been, you know, vital in keeping this going. Sean McCormick before him, having it at the Aria, just to give us a venue. And for us to have those TDs that have never been to the PokerGo studio, maybe you've never been to Vegas before, come in and see what they do there on a day-to-day basis. PokerGo does a fantastic job, and we're lucky to have them as a sponsoring partner and opening their doors to us having the TDA Summit there this year. So again, if you're out there and you have somebody that you think it would be very important for us to going, we also have media there. We have players. We have card room managers. We have, you know, poker room directors. We have table game supervisors. We have a wide array of people that go there, all with the, you know, the end goal of making it better for every poker player that's out there playing tournaments.
I'm going to try to make it this year, by the way. I'll be out there in Vegas. Matt, let's talk you introducing the Big Blind Annie. What year that happened? And I remember the Big Blind Annie started with the high rollers. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, actually, I didn't start that. I was started at the PokerGo studio. But out of that, I kind of thought that there was a need for something. One of the things that I'm always trying to do is to make poker faster, and not just, you know, to make people rush, but it's to make people so that it's not boring, taking too long, enjoyable for recreational players. And one thing recreational players over the years I found out like the game to be quicker. They don't like all the stalling and all that stuff. So the Big Blind Ante was something they were using at the PokerGo studio for these high rollers. And I kind of brought it out of that, and I brought it to commerce. And because I brought it to commerce, the recreational players were seeing it for the very first time. Originally, first 10 minutes, they're like, we hate this. This is terrible.
Resistance, yep.
A little resistance. But then I pushed on. I said, this is better. This is better. This is going to make the game better. And I used it for an event. And then I used it for 2 events. And I used it for a series. And the next thing I know, I had Tab and Borgata calling me. I had William Mason in South Florida calling me. I had people in Northern California calling me. And the next thing I know, it had spread across the United States. And then I had tournament directors in Brazil asking me about it. I had tournament directors in other parts of the world asking me about it. And next thing you know, it was an international phenomenon. And so, you know, while I did not start it, I definitely helped popularize it. And it's another thing I think that's better for the poker players. And so I'm happy to be a part of its growth. That's for sure.
It's funny you say that because I was the first person to introduce it in Tampa in like 2018.
Okay.
And I knew it was going to be big. And I love that it sped up the beginning of the tournament with players not paying attention, nobody putting their ante in. You know, when you're playing 15-minute blind, you're spending 5 minutes collecting antes. And I got so much pushback in the local area, how stupid it was, how dumb it was. And I was like, guys, this is the next big thing. And I tell you, 6 months later, every local room was using it. And
yeah, absolutely. And then the other side of it is people would say, oh, you know, there's other changes that people want to it all the time and always fighting for, you know, let's reduce the ante when we get to the final table. Hell no, let's not do that. Let's, you know, go to individual antes at a certain stage of the tournament. No, we don't need to do that either. I think it's good to be consistent, have it all the way to the end. It actually makes the final table play so much better, in my opinion. So I'm always a guy that's against, you know, changing the way it is right now because I think it's working perfectly. You know, the big argument now, and it will come up again at this year's TDA Summit, is should it be big blind first or ante first or all of these other little issues that are coming up. And there's still strong support on both sides. So we don't know which way it's going to go. And what I'm saying here, Carl, is basically it's when somebody has less than a big blind, you know, when it gets to them in the big blind position late in the tournament. You know, should the ante go first? Should the big blind go first? I don't know what you use, Jacob, but
oh, absolutely, the ante goes first. You saw all the other hands for free.
Exactly, and that's what I have always said. And you know, so many people have caved on that honestly, it's not that big a deal to me. If we can get everybody to agree to go one way or the other, I'm all for it. I don't actually even care anymore. So
as a player, you got to make your decisions based upon knowing that you're going to be all in just to win the ante. So when you're under the gun, you should almost be shoving any two cards. You know,
not almost. You should be shoving any two.
Yeah.
And I understand that, you know, people say, well, I took a bad beat the hand before the big blind came to me. It's not fair that I'm putting money in the spot. I should be able to win for all these players. Yes, but you're also benefiting in all those other spots if you're not the short stack player. And so, you know, you do have those recreational players. I have a guy, Kevin O'Donnell, who's on my case every day. It's not good for recreational players. It's not good for the short stack. I always tell them, you know, just don't be short stacked. That's all you got to do.
You know what? This is my 2 cents. First of all, the big blind ante, I think it's the best thing that happened in tournaments because you're seeing way more hands. It got a little bit of resistance. Again, any change, you're going to see resistance. The first time I was playing at Hard Rock in Tampa and they introduced the big blind ante, all the old timers were hating it. A second question that players sometimes ask me, they'll be like, how do you calculate your big blinds? So if your stack is 50 bigs, just because you're putting 2 big blinds when you're in the big blind, so you're putting the blind and the ante, they cut their stack in half. I'm like, 50 big blinds is 50. Just because you're posting one time an extra big blind doesn't mean your stack is cut in half. So
I hear that very often too, by the way.
Yeah, I get asked that all the time. They'd be like, their stack will be 50 bigs, and they'd be like, oh, I have 25 big blinds. I said, how did you do the math? They were like, oh, because we're putting 2 blinds in the big blind. I said, yeah, but you're doing it one time per orbit. Not if it's every hand, then your stack is cut in half. If you're doing it once, your stack is still 50 bigs. It's not 25 bigs. Another thing, that was my next question about the ante first or big blind first. And I see dealers still today ask me or they ask a veteran at the table, like, what goes first? Is the WSOP doing ante first or they're doing big blind first?
They're doing big blind first.
Big blind first.
A few, you know, players got in their ear and said, you know, this is the way that we do this at the high roller. This is the way we do it in this one. And they do big blind first. And they've never varied from that. Matter of fact, it was a TDA recommended procedure from 2 summits ago that we would do ante first. And so many other people were doing it. You know, Poker Stars over in Europe, the WSOP, both doing big blind first. And it's just, I don't know why. It's basically because, you know, a few players told them that, you know, it's better for short stacks or whatever, that it's, easier for recreational players, that type of thing.
So let's break it down. Let's break it down from your perspective.
Yeah.
If you do any first, you're just winning the any back. If you're doing big blind first, now everybody's matching whatever you put in the big blind, and now you're winning more money. So basically, it is slightly more advantageous for the short stack, correct? Or am I wrong?
Absolutely. It's definitely beneficial for the player that has that one chip, you know, that's in that position.
Right.
How do they put themselves in that position is the main thing. So, you know, it's an argument that will go on forever if I don't try and end it myself. And be honest, there's no one in the world that can get it to go one way or the other, except for maybe me and the TDA board. So
we're going to jump the gun here and ask a question that it was a question from the chat. Ryan Manzer, shout out to Ryan. He was a TD at Hard Rock, and he really knows the book start to end. He said, when is the WSOP going to come on board and actually be standard with the TDA? Why are they their separate entity and doing the things?
Well, let's be honest. The WSOP is a massive project. It's a massive product. They run a lot of games that you don't see anywhere else in the world, right? They have a big festival of massive fields with tournaments that aren't in there. So the fact that they have other rules outside the TDA, it doesn't offend me. They use TDA rules. They use all the rules we use in the TDA, plus they have additional rules. So
yeah, they have to.
They have to. There's no way for them to get around it. And Jack Effel and his team do such a fantastic job of managing that behemoth event that, you know, it doesn't bother me. Jack Effel is on the board of the TDA. So he, you know, has the right to say if he doesn't like something or won't use something. Of course, as every other property does. The TDA does not force you to use TDA rules. They just ask that if you're going to be a property that uses them, you follow the TDA, you know, rules and hopefully the procedures. But there are some venues and jurisdictions that don't allow for every TDA rule to be used. So because of that, there are some places that have carve-outs. That's why I always advise everybody to make sure when you first join to sign up for these things that you know that if they're using TDA rules or if they're not. Generally, everybody is. But if they're not using TDA rules, what are those rules that are different?
Let's dive in deep in what rules are different in WSOP. So if somebody's playing a WSOP event, what do they expect different than the TDA? Like, what are the 2 or 3 things that they do different besides the big blind? The ante first or big blind first.
To be honest, I don't really know everything that's different. I do know there's one rule where if your head's up in a pot and you're closing the action, you can talk about the contents of your hand. You know, the TDA rule is you can never disclose the contents of your action in your hand or the contents of your hand with action pending. And I don't know if they still use that one or not, but I know that they went to that a few years ago because, again, a few of the big voices said, oh, no, we want to be able to talk about our hand. And then they said, well, you can't talk about it when there's other players in the hand, or you can't talk about it when there's still action to go. But if you're closing the action, you can do it. And
if you're closing,
to me, that's not really consequential. We're going to discuss that again this year because I know that, you know, they're not the only ones that want to be able to talk about your hand and things like that. That's part of poker fun. I do think it is one of the things that slows poker down. So I don't know. You ask Jacob how he feels about it.
How do you feel about it,
Jacob?
Jacob?
We have it right now. I think is actually fine.
I think it's actually fine the way it is too. I think when you bring talk into it, you're going to have people who have a big advantage and are good talkers, and you're going to get people to turn their hands maybe when they're not supposed to. You're going to get, hey, show me a card. You know what I mean? You just open your, to more and more things that people want. And when you just can't talk about it, it's the best way to keep it.
Yeah, there'll be some old school players who'll say, oh, that's the way we played the game back in 1974 and blah, 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 blah. It's true. The game has changed, right? It's a different game these days. And, to me, yeah, being able to table talk is probably a skill. And I don't think that that's something that should be lost. But I also think that, there is ways for it to be done. You are still allowed to table talk. People say you're not allowed to talk at the table. You are allowed. And I encourage it. It's fine. I don't mind. I don't like the hoodied up players with the sunglasses and the mask that are out there playing and doing nothing. I hate that. And a lot of people do. They think the game's a lot less enjoyable because you can't talk at the table. You can dock the table. You just cannot tell other players what you have in your hand. Because it could be like this. I could be at a table with Carl and say, hey, Carl, don't call me, I have aces. And Carl goes, okay, I fold, and now I show aces. And that type of thing would be allowed if you could talk about the contents of your hand. And now floor would be called, and I'd go to the table and say, Carl, Matt, why did you show Carl your hand, and why did you tell him you had aces? Oh, because I didn't want him to call me. Well, okay, that's not really in the spirit of the game, is it? Or you could say, oh, I thought I was lying. I only had fours or something like that.
It does give room for angle shooters for sure. Angle shooters are going to take advantage of it. So
I would need to determine if you and I were friends, and if I was cheating, or if I was just trying to talk you out of your chips.
Right.
You know what I mean?
This is the thing: is where do we draw the line? I'm sure old timer poker players like Negrano, the Helmuth, they're gonna like the fact that you can talk. But the thing is, where do you draw the line? Because some people are going to take advantage of other players. At the Hard Rock, by the way, they don't allow any talking. Like literally, you can't.
Some of the interesting hands that have happened in the world, or Daniel Negrano talking people about, I know you have this, and I put you on that, and all that stuff, and all that's allowed. He just can't say that I have this, right?
He can.
That's fine. I'm okay. I'm okay with all that. People think that I'm against table talk. I am not. I am against what Jamie Gold used to do, and people will say that I created the Jamie Gold Rule, which is definitely true. I thought he was way over the top, and I thought that he said some things that should not be allowed. He's still on the other side of that, thinking that I'm crazy and that it should all be allowed. But, the fact that you say I have top or whatever, and you actually have it, and, it's actually could be collusion. It wasn't in that case, and it's not in a lot of cases, but it could be, and that's the issue. You got to patrol all situations. And remember, the TDA is not only for the $10,000 main events and the championship events that are going on around the world. It's also for, those $20 tournament players that are playing back home, or maybe in Jacob's tournaments there, where you have these, small buy-ins, and you have local players that are friends of each other. Now, somebody that's a first-time player there comes in there and goes, well, these two guys are friends and they're cheating against me. Yep. And you would have no defense if you didn't have this rule in place.
Well said. Let's talk about starting stack, and we mentioned a little bit. I know you lean more towards a smaller stack, better structure. I think there should be like a fine line. So I wrote two extremes here: 20K starting stack and a decent structure versus 100K starting stack and a structure that's missing blinds. What's your take on it?
Well, I'm always for a good structure, no matter where it is. Now, that you can't have a great structure every time you're having a tournament. You can't. It's impossible. Right. People say they want a great structure for a daily tournament. It's not possible. We have turbo tournaments. We have events that are, need to be shorter for certain reasons. There's no way that we can run an event that starts at, 9 o'clock at night and have it go until 9 o'clock in the morning. Just not possible. So, we have to have structures that are built differently, done differently. I'm always for people that want to do things different. I want things that are done differently. But like I said, I just don't think throwing chips at a problem it's created some issues in the game where, hey, I'm starting a tournament. It's a $10,000 starting stack, and it has an amazing structure. And down the street, they're running a tournament with a 100,000 starting stack and a terrible structure. And yet they get the players because of some fake starting stack. And for years and years, and probably still continues to this day, people call you on the phone and say, hey, I saw your tournament online. How many chips do you start with? That's their first question, when it should be the last question. It's the least important thing. And they've all made it the most important thing.
I was a big advocate for good structures. When I started playing tournaments in Tampa and Yi became the tournament director, I fixed a lot of the structures. The TD before him had, the dailies, I understand. They don't want it to drag till 5 a.m. There's a lot of people they have jobs the next day. So they want to wrap it up around like 1 a.m. at best. So I understood that. But for somebody doing it for a living like me, I had to, I worked with Yi and we fixed all the structures. And I was talking with him about it. By the way, I'm going to show a tweet that you just you were comparing two tournaments side to side. One had a lot of chips and a fast structure, and one had too few chips and a better structure. Here, let me share it 1 second. So you're talking about average stack side to side. One was a WSOP event 2, and one. You remember this tweet, Matt?
Yeah, I did. That's not my tweet. That's somebody wrote that to me, so I'm not. I saw that.
Okay, one has 20K starting stack and one has 40K starting stack. I'm guessing the 20K starting stack had a better structure. Talking about 20K starting stack, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a fan of the WPT that happened in Hollywood with the 20K starting stack, especially the opener. I know what the reason is as far as house is concerned, but me as a player, and I'll tell you what's my point. Like, I know the structure is great. It starts at 100, which is you're starting with 200 big blinds. The only thing I don't like with the 20K starting stack is when you're playing against amateurs, and I told Yi at Hard Rock that point. Amateurs are not playing early levels like professionals would play early levels. So professionals are not opening more than 2x or 3x early levels. When you're playing against amateurs, they're opening 6, 7x. So they see 100 big blind. They're not opening 300. They're opening 700, 800. So now let's say 3 people call. There's 24 big blinds in the pot. You're playing a huge, massive pot. One hand doesn't go your way. All of a sudden, you have half of a starting stack. It's still 100 big blinds, but still, the early levels are not playing like, and you can't control that. Like, you can't dictate what other players are doing. So you see my point. If the starting stack was like 25K, I see the point why. 20K is going to generate a bigger price pool because people are going to bust out early, fire again, and this is where we're going to talk about unlimited entries or re-entries. And what's your take on that? So what's your take on the 20K starting stack? Why 20K? Why not 25K? And what's your take on unlimited re-entries?
20. I'd prefer it was 15,000 to be honest. You have to adjust to those things. That's what you should love. That you should love somebody opening 700. You should love that.
Honestly, I don't love it. I don't want to play a big pot with marginal spots, Matt. It's like biggest pet peeve for professional poker players is big pots. There are certain spots where you want to play.
That's not true. That is absolutely not true. That's not true. That the biggest pet peeve is big pots. That's not true. I promise you, the pros love it when somebody opens a 7x pre. They love it. They can make that adjustment.
Well,
adjustment too. I'm just telling you, 20,000 is plenty of chips starting at 100. There's no doubt about that. What are they, 30-minute?
I mean, the thing is, we're used to playing dailies with 30K starting stack. Well, you go to a major event and you're having 30K start. It's not being a crybaby here. It's, trust me, when somebody's opening 7x and it's going, it doesn't. I said 3 ways. Those spots go 6 ways. Early levels, it's never 2 ways. It's going 6 ways. The pot is bloated. Your stack, by level 1, level 2, the stacks are going in, and you're rebuying and you're rebuying.
Don't splash around as much.
It's you can't control people opening 7x. That's the thing. I'm opening 2 and 3x early and late. Like, my game is going to be the same. Amateurs are not doing that. You see my point?
No, I don't actually.
You know what? And
I think 20 is plenty. I mean, if you're going to start with 200 big blinds in a tournament, to me, and you'll hear later when we talk about the savage average, I think that's something that's unnecessary. To me, when you're on the bubble, when you're in the money, and when you're at that final table, that's when it's super important. How deep are you at that point? That's all I care about. I think that's the most important stage of the tournament. I think that's where you should get the most amount of play. And I don't think you get that when you give more and more chips.
Agree.
It's worse.
100% agree. I think once the blinds get to 1,000, the play changes. Nobody's opening 7x anymore. People are opening 2 and 3x, maybe 4x.
Basically, when registration closes is when it changes usually.
Yes.
But how late can you get into that tournament with that 20K big blind or that 20K stack?
Probably 8 levels.
8 levels, yeah.
You can buy in until you're down to how many big blinds?
Probably 15
level 8 is what, 1,200 big blind or?
Probably.
No, actually, it's less because they start at 100. So what is level 8, Matt? Is it 1,000?
Oh no, I yeah.
Probably 20 big.
It's got to be in that range because there's got to be a color up in there somewhere. So they're probably taking the hundreds off at some point.
I'm
not sure. Well, I mean, we can look it up. What's your take on unlimited rebuys?
First of all, I want them called re-entries because rebuys was a completely different animal that exactly. I don't know if you guys were around to see. But rebuys where you could just buy them at the table and somebody would come around and sell you chips, or the dealer would sell you chips for an additional thing. But the re-entry is something that I started. So I have a lot of opinions about it. Re-entry was never started to be a reg grab. It was never started to be the way it is done today. It was never multiple re-entry. I started it with a $335 buy-in, 300 plus 35, with 3,000 starting chips. 3,000. You heard that?
Yikes.
Right? And you could buy in once per day. And if you bust it out, you could buy in the next day. Okay.
So one re-entry.
It had $1 million guarantee. It was the first of its kind. Nobody's ever done anything like it before or after, to be honest. You could only buy once per day. And the last day we had 110 tables, 110 tables with every single seed fold 10-handed. And we had 693 alternates. And the structure was, literally 3,000 starting chips, started 25 blinds. And first place was $355,000 for a $300 and $35 entry fee buy-in.
What venue and what year was that?
Do I like multiple re-entries in tournaments? I think it's that ship has sailed. We're never going to get away from it. Tournament venues have found a way to make tournaments profitable because tournaments have never been and were never intended to be profitable. They were intended to bring people in to play cash games. And so the whole industry had changed back then. You seem to forget that before there was re-entry, the cash games were much, much better. The cash games that tournaments brought in were much, much better. There was satellites. There was single table satellites. There was more events that were going on during the day before re-entry. So while I was instrumental in getting it started and making it happen, do I like the way it is today? I don't love it. Do I think that a single re-entry is better? Probably. Do I think it's better for the long term of poker? Definitely. But I also see that there's tournaments and there are reasons to have multiple re-entries. So I'm on both sides of that one. I think that, while it's done a great thing, it's built way bigger prize pools than we've ever seen before. In the long term, who knows if it's better or worse, but it sure has survived to this point. I get surprised every time I see a big tournament with multiple re-entries to see people just, burn a track back to that registration desk and go back and go back and go back. And so to me, I'm okay with multiple re-entry, but if they have multiple re-entry, I want a shorter registration time.
When you say you're against the multiple re-entry, are you talking like house perspective or player perspective? Why do you think it's negative? Like, why do you think?
I just think industry perspective, and I don't say I'm against multiple re-entry. I just don't think it's best for the long-term health of the industry. But a lot of businesses think short-term in this industry. So if you're allowing multiple re-entry in your spot and somebody down the street's not, the person with the multiple entry is probably going to get more entries, and people are going to see bigger prize pools and they're going to gravitate towards there. So it's a very big competitive disadvantage if you want to be the one to stand your ground and say, all right, we're doing no re-entry today. We're doing a single re-entry today. So, it's tough. I don't blame tournaments for having multiple re-entry. I'm in a venue right now.
Why are you against
Montreal right now, where we have multiple reentry?
But why are you against it, Matt? What's the main?
Keep saying I'm against it. I'm not against it. I'm just saying it's probably not the best for long-term growth.
Why not? People go broke faster.
Of course.
Okay, so that I wanted to put my finger on it. That's.
And also, I just don't think it's as good for other things that are going on in your venue. You know, you have cash games, and I told you, cash games were the reason for tournaments. I'm a tournament guy. I love tournaments. I'm promoting tournaments, but it used to be to bring cash game players into your casino. So,
that was exactly Tony Burns' stance too about one re-entry, and he explained it that it brings people to cash, and if that player goes broke in the tournament, he's not going to go to the cash table. I'm
also against super long registration where you can buy into 10 big blinds. You know what I mean? I'm against that.
So extended pass level 8?
Yes. Well, and it's not level 8 because in Jacob's tournament, you know, who knows where 10 big blinds is at? You know?
10 big blinds is way more than level 8. Yeah, probably 10 or 12.
Yeah. Tough to say.
Some of the dailies here have Jacob, I don't think your tournaments have extended the registration. It's like 2 hours normally, right? The dailies. That was our friend's question too. He said how to reduce, that's verbatim, how to reduce max late reg's advantage. I don't know exactly what he means.
Yeah, Kenny Hollert, Spacey ran some numbers and said that it's definitely beneficial to have late registration, to buy in late, because, you know, he gave a bunch of reasons and statistics and things like that. A lot of people don't necessarily believe that. I'm not sure if I 100% believe it, but he's saying that late registration is to the advantage of those people. And so there's people that will only late register because they don't want to play the earlier levels. That's why another reason why I think that having earlier meaningful levels are important to a tournament as well.
That was my strategy. I always register level 3 or 4. I never show up level 1, the early levels. I'm never sit down at first card pitched. Jacob, is your audio back?
Should be, right?
Yeah, it's good. Yep.
Okay.
So you like short registration as well, Jacob?
For dailies, we mainly do 4 to 6 levels, and it's 15 or 20-minute levels mainly.
Oh, okay.
So, but anytime you get to like the $200 range, it usually opens up to like 8 levels. I think some of it was built out of, as people traveled for tournaments, they wanted to know that they could enter more than once or twice into a tournament. Like if you're going to spend $1,200 to travel, you know, you wanted to know that you had a good chance of, you know, making day 2, day 3, you know, you could fire multiple bullets. I think some of that was built out of that.
Well, players that will tell you that are in strong support of multiple reentry will say that it doesn't matter, that each bullet is separate. So the fact that they're entering multiple times is better for the field. It's not better for themselves. There's many, many pros that feel like reentry is not beneficial to a certain player, which, you know.
I mean, of course, it's going to affect their bottom line. Like you said, bad for that specific player, great for the prize pool. That's why I'm a fan of reentries. I say let the people fire as many bullets as they want. I know I'm not normally if I fire 3 or 4 bullets, something is off that day, and it doesn't happen that often.
It does allow for bigger guarantees.
Of course, it builds the prize pool. It's just, common sense. Checking the nuts. I had a situation happen at Hard Rock a few months back, actually a year back, and the person didn't bet the nuts, and the TD or the supervisor at that time said that the rule changed in TDA that you don't have to bet the nuts by the river. Is that correct?
It's never been a TDA rule, never has been, and never will be, as far as I know. Yeah, I mean, it is a case-by-case situation. You know, sometimes people want information on the other player's hand. Sometimes they misread their hand. So should it be an automatic penalty? No. Are there situations where it should be a penalty? Absolutely. I've had people tell me flat out, I didn't bet because he's my friend.
So what situation are you giving a penalty? And let's say nothing was said at the river. The guy had the nuts and checks the river back. That's not an automatic penalty?
It's not an automatic penalty. It never has been.
How about WSOP? They follow the same rule?
I think so. I don't think it's an automatic penalty. It was at one point, but I don't think it is anymore.
I think some people get confused when the nuts can be tied. Like, say, ace jack for ace high straight's the best hand. Well, 4 people could have ace jack. And
no, we're talking like the absolute nuts, like ace high flush, and you have the nuts and you check back.
Yeah, it's not an automatic penalty. I want to know why, though. And I'm pretty good at sniffing out if there's an actual reason why. Oh, I thought I was going for a straight, and I didn't even know I had the flush. Are you going to give that guy a penalty?
Do people call the supervisors a lot in that spot? Because people still think not that often. Okay.
I get questions about it, on Twitter or X now all the time. Maybe 3 or 4 times a year. Not that often.
Okay, this is a situation where I tagged you once in a post a few years back. It happened actually at Silks. I was playing a tournament. I went all in, and automatically there was actually a bet. I was facing a bet, and I went all in. So it was bet, raise, all in. The dealer right away took the chips in and told the player it's this much more to call. And I didn't say anything just so I won't give off the strength of my hand. But afterwards, I'm like, what are you doing? I said, what you did induces action. She's like, what do you mean? This is a house rule. I said, I understand, but you understand my point that I was bluffing. I didn't want the guy. So when you take the chips in, it just makes it way more easier to call. At Hard Rock, they don't touch the chips. They just announce the total amount. They don't bring the chips in. And it's standard procedure, and I was used to that. And then I saw that action. I'm like, so what's the TDA rule about that? About bringing the chips in? She did it automatically.
You shouldn't be bringing in the bets until, the player asks. The player could ask.
The
player could say, could you bring in the bets? And they can do that, yes. But they shouldn't be touching those chips. Give a full amount, especially on those all-ins. I know that there are certain situations where the floors or the dealers will count all-ins. We're using it right now in playground here in Montreal because we have a clock that's in play, so players have the right to know how much the player's betting. But in most situations, you shouldn't be bringing those bets in. So you were right on that one, Carl.
Carl, I could tell you, the Silks back in like 2002, 2003, when I helped open that, we didn't use TDA back then, and it was just coming out. And a lot of places that you dealt, it was always a requirement to bring in the dead money. So that's changed over time, and that rule there may have just stuck over time.
Yeah, we have recommended procedures on the TDA, and that's one of them, that you don't bring in the bets.
The value of mixed games for the house. Our incognito friend asked that question. So he's talking about mixed games. Do they bring value for the house?
I think so. Mixed game players can bring an additional 1, 2, 3 cash games into your room. A lot of situations they bring in higher buy-in players. A lot of times they are a different, complete subset of players that don't even come to your room ever. We had just a tournament at Seminole Hard Rock, our WPT festival down there. They had a wide array of different mixed games, and they had a whole group of players that came from around the country to play in those events. So it's an entirely different group, and they were running mixed game cash games in their room. And because of that, it's amazing. It works out. It works out really well.
Interesting.
Do you think the TD will ever expand beyond the main forms of like PLO, Hold'em, draw games to like these weird games that they're playing, like Dramaha and like stuff like that?
I hope not.
They're not popular. They're just not popular.
They could, but then next thing you know, there's 3 different games the following year, and then you have to add that. A lot of the talk that goes on at the TDA Summit is, people want to reduce the amount of rules, right? And give the TD some flexibility to make rulings on things that affect them more often. And I think we've got it in a good list right now. Unfortunately, now we have, a pretty good list of rules. But this year specifically, I have so many different topics to bring in. So I'm happy you're coming this year, Jacob, because I think it's going to be a very, very good summit and a productive one as well. So there's going to be some arguments. There's going to be some blows thrown, some tears shed. But I think at the end, we're going to have a very good, productive summit.
Well, this double board bomb pot stuff, and like you're starting to see these tournaments pop up with 2 boards, and like locally here, there's places running Deuces Wild tournaments. Like it's gotten out of hand, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm all for having fun. I'm all for more mixed game tournaments. I'm a mixed game player myself. I think that, you know, having more mixed games in your festivals, in your series, brings in a different clientele. I think it's important. I think poker is more than just no limit hold'em. Absolutely. I would love to see more than just no limit hold'em played. And I know that there's plenty of players, probably like you, Carl. That's the only game you play. But I'm a big fan of more than 2 cards.
One trick pony. It's gonna be hard. Just hold'em is easy. It just brings in a big crowd. Mixed games are never gonna bring.
That's the other thing. Can you be the best player in the world if you just play no limit hold'em?
No. Answer is no.
Yeah, you're the best poker player. A well-rounded poker player can be the best. That's for sure.
Agree. What do you think about AI and its role in poker these days?
I mean, it's in everything now. So I know there's a lot of coaching sites that are using different AI techniques. Will it solve poker? I don't think so. I think that poker is unsolvable, even though many people feel like it is. I think that, you know, there's always personalities in the game. And I can tell you just from the last 3 venues, including this one today, that I'm at in Montreal, poker is not solved, ladies and gentlemen. There's still a lot of good action out there. And some of the plays I've seen, it's a good place to play poker. So
live poker is definitely still alive.
Oh, yeah.
Negrano yesterday brought a really good point. He's talking about Neuralink. Can you imagine having a chip in your brain that actually has a solver in real time and you're playing poker? Like, where do you draw the line? What if somebody came to your tournament, Jacob, and has a chip in his brain? Because, you know, Elon Musk is trying to do that, by the way.
But you can always have a person. You're always going to have people that don't play the hand the way it's supposed to be played. And, you know, they're always going to have a hand that you don't expect them to have at some point. Like, that's how people play. And that's what's so great about poker.
But if you have access to a solver in real time, that's going to definitely be an advantage. It's definitely going to be an edge. By the way, I don't know if you heard about how evil AI, like, I don't know if you played with ChatGPT. ChatGPT is a pretty interesting app. Like I prepare some of my podcasts. You just ask it one question, and you'll be like, create questions for a podcast with Matt Savage, and it'll give you like 20 questions in a matter of seconds. It's insane, and it's so accurate. Like the old AIs, not old AIs, like, you know, Alexa and Siri, they have a lot of work to do to become at the same level as ChatGPT, and it's so accurate right away. These are some of the pictures, by the way, that were created by AI. It just, the caption was "create evil foods," and these are the pictures that it created. It's pretty scary stuff. But
the TDA summit in 2026 will be about AI.
Yeah.
By the way,
if we're not still arguing ante first and big blind first.
Yeah, exactly.
Any innovation, anything new this year that's going to be brought up in the TDA, Matt?
Yeah, definitely have a lot of topics that are going to be brought up. You know, people looking at their phones, you know, during the hand, things like that. Obviously, the big blind ante versus ante first will be brought up again. I have an immense list of topics that will be brought up, and I'm still accepting more. So, again, if you're coming out to play in these events or to be out there and you have some things to be brought up, please get them to me through social media, and I will definitely bring them up this year.
I'm looking at a tweet by Sean Deep. He's talking about using phones at the same table and DQing people that are messaging each other at the same table. This is the tweet right away. Share screen. What do you think about this ruling and how they're going to enforce it? WSOP rules state that all cell phones must be silenced during tournament play, and although players are allowed to use their phones at the table, providing they're not in a hand, a special rule is in place for texting someone at the same table. In short, if you attempt to communicate with someone at the same table as you're both disqualified. And Sean is laughing at the ruling. What do you think about the ruling?
It's tough to enforce. I don't hate the fact that it's out there. You know, one part of the reason is that you don't want people texting during hands, obviously, or in fact, just texting somebody, I had ace king, right? While they're still in the hand. And somebody has their phone device open. Obviously, that's a good way to give away this kind of information. But of course, even after the hand, you know, texting, hey, what did you have in that hand? I had this and blah, blah, blah. It's not really in the spirit of the game. So the fact that that rule exists, I don't hate it. Enforcement of it, I don't think it's going to be as easy as I think there's going to be. And most importantly to me, will enforcement of it be treated equally for everybody? There are situations in the past where in some tournaments, the rules are not enforced equally to all. And that to me is the biggest issue.
This reminds me of, I worked as a supervisor of the WSOP in 2005, and in the main event, they came out with these little buttons for Milwaukee's best buttons. And if you threw it in, you were all in. And depending on how it ended up in the pot and what supervisor you got a different ruling from every person. There's just so many supervisors that work that you can't have them all on the same page. It's impossible.
It was very funny. That year was the most ridiculous ever. I was not there that year. I wasn't TD there. It was the year after I was gone.
Yeah.
And they had the rule that if you threw that in there, it didn't count as an all-in. And then people just kept throwing them in because you weren't all in. And then they said if you threw it in twice, you were all in. So then people would, I mean, it was just, come on.
And then you would get called over and they're like, yeah, I rolled off my hand. It was on my stack and it rolled in. Like there was so many things that came up. It was a nightmare.
Yeah. Let's chalk that up as the worst idea ever.
What advice would you have to inspiring up and coming TDs?
Be patient with players. Listen to them. You know, you're going to get people giving you advice and wanting to tell you their issues and stories and bad beats, and you know, listen to those people. If you listen to them and you know, become their friend, earn their respect, they're going to respect you when you come to your table and make a ruling. I have people all the time when I go to a ruling to make a ruling at the table, and for the last 20 years, if I go to the table, make a ruling, am confident in my ruling, they have respect for me, I have respect for them, I can walk away from the table and know that ruling is going to be accepted and ruled upon. I don't want people going to a table, lingering, you know, having doubt and things like that. And a lot of that comes from the respect that's earned through years of making these decisions. So I think being patient with the players, respecting their things that they say, and listening to them. A lot of times they have great ideas that are brought up, and many, many ideas that have been brought up and made rules came from players. It's not just tournament directors or people wearing suits that made these decisions. So like I said, I respect the players. I think they have the toughest job of all of us. You know, we're there to make the tournaments run great and be a part of what they're doing, or maybe it's their profession, maybe it's their recreation, but make it a fun experience for those people. I think that's the most important thing.
That's what makes you great, Matt. You and another person that comes to mind is Tony Burns. He's a politician, and he's very down to earth. Like when he's talking to players, he's not coming at them from like a higher position. He's like you can talk to him as a friend, and that's why he was very liked. And it's tough to be a TD online, especially. You're gonna get a lot of hate. I don't know what it is. Especially dealing with poker players is not easy. So being a politician and being liked is takes you a long way.
So Tony's a politician. Is he
Tony's president next.
Is he Ron DeSantis or Gavin Newsom?
He's gonna be Biden next.
Oh, God. Let's hope not.
You
Shout
have
out to Tony, by the way.
You have to keep your cool, because you're always going to have that person that say, they don't do that like that in Vegas. They don't rule it like that in Vegas. Like, we hear that all the time. Or, I played in this room and they did it like this. Why are you doing it like this? Like, the only way you can work through those scenarios is just hear the person out. All they want to do is be heard, and then explain to them why it is the way it is. And most people will accept it as long as you keep your cool.
Yeah, and I have fun with that stuff. You know, people always ask me, they say, why do they do it that way and you do it this way? Well, I say they do it that way and we do it the correct way.
Oh, that's a good one. I've seen you almost throw hands a couple times, Jacob, in your room. Like, things get he heats up real quick.
Excuse me, guys. I have a little bit of
not when I'm around, because I like to just take them to the side and try to calm them down. And like,
yeah, I've seen you de-escalate a couple times. I've seen you de-escalate. You do a good job for sure. It takes a big personality to be able to take punches and not let your ego get involved.
Matt, I have a question for you.
Okay.
So as somebody likes to push the issue and like grow and take chances, I've been trying to do that a lot here in the Tampa Bay area. When you work with like the win and you're trying to put together the big guarantees and like how much is too much or what's the perfect amount, what kind of talk goes into deciding that, you know, number that you put out there? Because you guys took some big chances, and like the first one paid off huge, and then the second one there was like an overlay. So I was just wondering, like, what goes into making those decisions?
You know, how there's a lot of different decisions, and I know that last year, you know, between Ryan Beauregard, the director of poker operations there, Adam Pliska, Charlie Stone, their director of table games, there's so many different things that go into that, you know, and the current market, is there going to be another event at the same time, that type of thing. And, you know, we took chances, and we're happy to say that we took chances, and we fell a little bit short last year, but in the end, I think the event was still a massive success. Prize pools were well in excess of $100 million. So, you know, it's when you have things like that and you face them right away. Adam Pliska went straight to the podium with the support of the win and said, hey, we fell a little short this time. It's okay. We're going to try and do things and make it better and improve so we don't miss in the future. But at the same time, I think it's important that we, you know, keep taking those swings, because we want the game to be bigger. We want the WPT to be successful. We, you know, strive to be, you know, the biggest and the best. And it's, you know, it's not always easy. There's a lot of competition out there. There's more and more competition every day. I tell all these people all the time, the last thing we need in the world right now is another tour. You know, there's another tour popping up pretty much every day. So it's one of those things that, you know, the fact we're giving players venues to play in around the world, and that's what we want to do on the WPT. We want to be the World Poker Tour, right? So we still get a lot of grief about people. Well, why don't you have all these events in the United States? Well, we're not just the United States Tour. We are the World Poker Tour. And we're proud to say that. So it's just one of those things that we do, and we, you know, have a footprint globally, and that's why we want to present ourselves on the World Poker Tour. So it's in a big roundabout circle to your thing. You've got to really know your market. You got to know what you're going after when you make those guarantees, because it's important. You know, you don't want to miss them. Ideally, you'd be able to set those numbers to where they drive business here. Company, because there's a lot of what they call fake guarantees out there as well, where you might do $100 tournament, put $1,000 guarantee on it, and people will be like, you know, why are you doing that? What's even the point of doing that? You know, some people say that in South Florida, they put up massive guarantees, $3 million guarantee for a $3,000, but they never miss it. But again, it gives people a baseline, and they know what to expect. They know they're going to have 1,000 entries, which is awesome. It works. It works for them. Like I said, you know, I can use South Florida as an example in the Hollywood Hard Rock. Bill Mason and his team have built that up to where literally they were a laughing stock in the industry 15, 20 years ago. And then Bill came in and, built up, and with a partnership with the WPT has built the most amazing, like, a series ever that just seem like they're so effortless, but it's because of years and years of experience, and what they've built there is impressive. So you'll see that over time. You'll see a lot of different things that you have that in your area, where people are working hard to make things better. And like I said, you probably have a seamless operation for what you do there too, Jacob. So it's, it's patience. It's patience, like I said, and learning the industry, learning your market, and doing the right things and making those correct decisions.
That stop in Hollywood is definitely huge. I wish we have something similar here in Tampa. Any future stops you think in Tampa? Any talks about that, or no?
We're always in conversation. I'm very good friends with E. Lee. He's done a great job over there. Pablo as well. They're always supportive of the WPT. They just have such a massive business with that ballroom. It's tough to get it. It's tough to lock in dates.
Trust me, I know.
They're a very, very successful casino. I mean, there's not one person in this world that wouldn't love to have the keys to that casino. It is a massive undertaking, and it's so successful. Sometimes they just don't need us at poker. They don't need a big tour to come rolling through there because they're so successful on their own. So I understand that. We are still good friends. I'm not saying that it's not going to happen again, and hopefully it will. Hopefully we'll be back to Tampa because we love that property, and I've stayed there a couple of times. It's beautiful. And
Matt, maybe we need to just rent the ballroom.
Yeah, I know that we've talked about that as well. Just renting our own ballroom.
There's talks of a new building. There's talks of a new building and a new ballroom next year or so. I hope that will be the solution, is a new ballroom to have more stops.
Definitely a great poker market out there. I know that for sure.
Oh, for sure. Okay, let's move on to the questions from the chat. We have a bunch of questions from the people on Facebook, Twitter. Jeff Ferrara on Facebook says, played in the tag team at the WSOP a few years back. Super cool guy.
Oh, nice.
Willie Muhammad on Facebook says, looking forward to seeing this one. Definitely would like to know if the WPT will have any special events in Las Vegas during the WSOP. Would love to play. Any stops in the WSOP this year?
Yeah, during the summer we're having 3 events at the Hard Rock, and we're gonna have 3 events at the Wynn, and we're calling it the trifecta. Now they are high rollers, so there are ways to get in for less money. So if you want to take a couple shots, check out the Wynn poker schedule during the summer, and there are going to be a few big events there for the WPT. Nothing basically small. Again, we support poker in the summer in Vegas. I live in Vegas. It's a time when all my friends come into town. Hopefully I get to go out there and play some golf with them and enjoy some nice dinners with people. But I get to play myself in the summer, and I'll be out there at the Wynn myself during that trifecta. So,
you grind in the summer?
Yeah, I don't grind. I'm not a grinder. I play a few events here and there.
Interesting. Chrissy Hollybeck on Facebook says, very cool. Shout out to Chrissy. Nicole Jamal on Facebook asks, any WPT stops planned for Tampa Hard Rock? We already covered that. Marsha Woolak, shout out to Marsha on Facebook.
Hey, Marsha.
Awesome. Matt Savage, who's that guy, on Facebook says, looking forward to it, Carl, man. Need to ask you how you find great content for your IG, the extreme sports content, of course, the extreme sports. I find it on IG too.
Yeah, you have some amazing Instagram content and all that extreme sports. I can't wait.
Thank you. That first picture is always clickbait, so don't judge me on
the inspirational stuff that you have on there too.
It is a lot of.
Always super inspired when I see your IG, Carl.
A lot of wisdom.
Yes.
Marsha Woolak asks on Facebook, I would like to know if they are doing WPT cruise again next year. If so, when is it and where is it going? And will it include a lot of pickleball? She's a pickleball champion.
Yeah, WPT Voyage this year. If you didn't go this year, you really, what they say, missed the boat. It was so much fun. We had amazing poker, amazing parties, an amazing time. It was awesome. I actually needed a full week vacation after that, but I had to go straight to Slovakia for another event. But it was so much fun. There's so many people that saw all the marketing and media and the stuff that came out of that was just out of this world. So yeah, hopefully we will be doing it again. We are always in conversations with the Virgin Voyages, and I think it's an odds-on favorite to come back. That's for sure.
Talking about pickleball, do they have pickleball courts?
Yeah, we had a pickleball tournament. Vince Van Patten had a pickleball tournament on the Voyage, so it was great.
You
so there will be a lot of pickleball. They actually took over the basketball court and made it into a pickleball court on the cruise line itself.
Interesting. All I saw from the cruise is Cuz breaking it down with like 4 or 5 women.
Yeah, he's he's here in Playground with me right now in Montreal, by the way.
Oh, tell him I said hi if you see him.
I will do that.
Ryan Manzer, shout out to Ryan. I asked this question earlier. He said, will the WSOP and TDA ever align their rules 100% for the greater good of poker? Call it WRAP, World Rules Association of Poker. So he's talking about aligning the rules between WSOP and
they're already aligned. I actually take a little offense saying they're not aligned. They are aligned for the most part. So.
At 95%. They still have the 5%. Buddy VLZ. Do you know Buddy? I don't know who Buddy is. On Facebook.
Yeah, I know Buddy. Buddy's also here with me in Montreal.
Okay. Do you agree that WPT Montreal on May 9th to the 22nd will be the biggest ever festival in Canada?
I hope so. We just got here, so we're just in day 1B of the WPT 500. We're off to a good start. So next week we have the WPT Prime and the WPT Championship. So it's off to a good start. This property is amazing up here. I've really, really enjoyed it. Matter of fact, I'm in one of their private rooms right now, one of their private gaming rooms, which is
wow. Love that table behind you.
Yeah.
And Buddy says, what will you do in Montreal when you're not working at the Playground Poker Club?
Well, hopefully I'm going to play a little golf. I'm trying to do that. I'm going to definitely go see Old Town Montreal, which I've not seen yet, and hopefully enjoy some of the city. There's a lot of amazing things to do here, and this is definitely one of the best cities in the world. There's no doubt about that.
How good are you in golf?
Not good at all. Terrible. I'm about a 14 handicap, which is not good.
Not good. Is there money involved when you play? Do you guys bet on? Absolutely.
Yeah, I can't play without having a little something on it. I don't bet, but there's got to be a little something on the line.
Yeah, some incentive.
Yes.
Andra Zacho, shout out to Andra. She runs a league here by the very successful league for the WSOP, by the way. On Facebook asks if she's watching in the background too. If you do the cruise again, can you do it after April 15th? So all of your accountant poker players, she's a CPA, can also go on the cruise instead of tearing up, looking at the pictures.
Just tell her to assign something, or tell her to send Mark. Mark can go on there.
Oh, you know what? They met you. I remember them posting pictures on Facebook. I think Mark wanted to come on and ask questions. I don't know if Andrew wants to come on camera in a little bit. Chad Kitchen on Facebook asks, shout out to Chad, he's a grinder here in Tampa. In your opinion, what are some things Tampa would need to do to become a more frequent stop for the larger tournaments every year? I'm not sure if he's talking WPT or in general.
Oh, I just think it's the space, the ballroom space. I mean, it's definitely got, it's an amazing venue. It definitely will be able to house, I mean, we don't like, we like going to some of the best venues in the world, and that's definitely one of them. So it's nothing that they did wrong, that's for sure.
Do you have any stops that are not at a casino?
No, not currently. Basically, they're either casinos, card rooms, or wherever we do them from around the world. So yeah, we do have some that are in different areas, but generally they are in casinos. But as it currently stands, we definitely need a license where we go there as partners, but it doesn't mean we haven't explored doing something different. But you definitely need to be in a state that allows gaming, or in a province or a country that allows gaming. And, there's a lot of costs that go alongside with just getting a ballroom, as you would know, with surveillance and all the things that would have to go
on. So let's say Jacob would want to have a WPT stop. Like, what are the requirements?
Well, right now we're pretty full on our schedule, but obviously we're always looking for people to partner up with our FPP, our player promotions that will bring players to our championship, bring players to our voyage. So all you got to do is reach out and get a hold of me, and we can probably make something happen there too. And I would love to come out and see your properties. I'm always game to go see new places I've never been to before. Like I said, I've been to Tampa before, but I would love to go and see a lot of new venues. I just was up in Eastern Washington at a new place that was opening up. They ran one of my tournaments up there, and we had a great time meeting new people that I've never met before. I'm always into that as well. So
like us here, the first time we interact, definitely having fun.
Speaking of running your tournaments, can you talk any more about the Savage Average? I'm very interested in maybe bringing that to the Tampa Bay average.
So the Savage Average is something that's kind of taken off for me personally. It's definitely an idea that I've had for a very long time, but it kind of clicked when I said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to try it. And so basically it's that what we talked about before. Structures to me are done incorrectly. The structures, like Carl likes them, is to start with 300 big blinds. And by the time you get to the final table, it's like a scale that goes like this, right? So you get down to the final table and you may have 15 big blinds or 10 big blinds. And to me, that's backwards. That's where you're playing for all the money. When you get on the bubble, when you get into the money, when you make the final table, that's to me where you should have the play. So the Savage Average is basically this. You start off with 50 big blinds because nobody in the world has a problem buying in late to a tournament with 50 big blinds, right? Have you ever heard of anybody say, well, I'm not buying in, I only have 50 big blinds? Nobody says that. So you start off with 50 big blinds, and the blinds never go below a 15 big blind average. And so it maintains that throughout. And so what happens is sometimes you have levels that are 25 minutes or 20 minutes, and you have sometimes levels that are an hour and a half or 2 hours. And so what that would be the stage of the tournament where, you're going this way, but now you're just going straight across. So it is an amazing concept for me because it's worked everywhere we've done it and players have loved it. But on top of that, it has a certain aspect to it, which there is no clock. So their clock is always at 0. So let's say we did the tournament in Thunder Valley where the tournament started at noon. We scheduled the first break at 2 o'clock. So now let's say we started at 2:07. The first break is at 2 o'clock. It goes from 2 o'clock to 2:15. There is no clock. So when we're doing color ups, we do them right at the table with the other 9 players at the table. So a lot of the complaints people say, why are you touching my chips? Why are you doing color changes? It doesn't matter because the clock isn't moving. There's no clock. When you're hand for hand, there's no clock. When you're taking a break, you know when everything's scheduled. It works a perfect system. And the only way you eliminate, the only way the blinds go up is when you eliminate players. So once players are eliminated to a certain level where the next blind level will take you to 50 big blinds, that's when the blinds go up. And to be honest, to me, it works better. And it's going to work better for limit tournaments for sure. But I love it. Literally 99% of the people have loved it. The only one that didn't love it is the guy that doesn't love anything that I do. It's fine. They just announced another one coming up at Maryland Live coming up. That's the one I just did in Washington. They've done it in Germany, in Australia, in Northern California, and in South Florida at the Hard Rock. And to me, one guy said, this is the best structured tournament I've ever played in my life. We have all varying ways of people like it. But for the most part, I encourage people to go out there and try it. And if you want to reach out to me on social media, I will give you the game plan to make it work.
Okay, Matt, let's talk details how the Savage Average works.
Okay.
As far as like let's say Yi is running the tournament. See, I saw the structure online and I pulled it up. Can you guys see it on screen?
No.
It went away.
Let me share it 1 second.
It was there and then it went away.
So in one structure you posted, it actually has 1 second. It actually has how many players are gone from the field and when the blinds go up. I was talking to Yi yesterday and he said So for a TD running the tournament, he said the average stack has to be 50 big blinds at all times. But
Correct.
if you're running the
at
tournament,
a minimum, no, at a minimum,
at a minimum.
Higher.
So normally when you set up the structure, is it set up of how many players get knocked out before the blinds go up?
Correct.
That's how you have it set
let's
up.
just do a simple number: 50 big blind average with 100 players. It wouldn't go up until there was 17 players eliminated. So once there's 17 players eliminated, we go from 500 to 1,000 up to 6 and 12. So that would mean the average stack would be what? 60,000. 60,000 is 50 big blinds.
I gotcha. I think it's great. And you ran it in Hollywood, correct?
Ran it in Hollywood. Worked fantastic. The length of the tournament is basically about the same amount of time it normally takes. Where you're getting all of the play is deeper in the tournament. There was a stage in the tournament in our championship where they were at 38 big blinds, and the tournament was running right next to it at a $600 buy-in, and they had, of course, over 50 big blinds. So, you know, like I said, tournaments go in stages, right? They had, in that tournament, they had 60-minute levels and 90-minute levels, right? This tournament has no levels, but they only go up when the blinds go up. So it basically works out to about 49 minutes a level at a 50 big blind average. At a 40 big blind average, it works out to about 40 minute levels. But again, those levels don't increase unless the average stack gets up to a level where it'll never go below 50 big blinds.
You see the structure, Jacob? It has the players on the side, like 50 players. So this is a 50 player tournament, basically. At 50 players, it's 500, 1,000. So they're starting with 50 big blinds. And then when it gets to 41 players, the blinds go up. 31 players, they go up again. So the way, I mean, it's a really good structure. So it favors good players.
So that's the thing. Some people say it favors recreational players. Some people say it favors professional players. So nobody really has it figured out yet, which is another thing that I really like, that nobody has it figured out.
Yeah.
How long of registration do you do?
So that's the other thing. Registration is open for 2 hours and 15 minutes. So it's open for that first 2 hours, 15, but they take a break at 2 hours and then 15 minutes more for them to go on break. But it's a short registration period, but there are a lot of eliminations and people can re-enter in that time. So again, re-entries, multiple re-entry, which I'm okay with as long as you have short registration.
But could you ever, like, does it ever happen where you change the blinds and then when more people enter, the blinds go backwards?
No, because the blinds never go up during the registration period.
Oh, they don't? Okay.
Oh, so for, let's say registration period is 8 levels. So for, well, actually
there's no levels.
2 hours. Let's say it's 2 hours. So for 2 hours, the blind, you're playing the same blind level.
500, 1,000 for 2 hours and 15, 5 for 2 hours plus the 15-minute break.
I'm a fan right away.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're playing deep, like the early. So it's basically, yeah, I'm a fan for sure.
But Carl, what do you do when the opening raises 7,000 though?
Yeah.
I can adjust. You know what? The thing is, when it's 1,000, they don't open 7,000. It's only when it's 100 they open. I don't know what it is, but
they always have 50 big blinds. They're good.
Yeah. We're going to cure you of that, Carl.
At PGT, they're opening 7x. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, they will open 7x. By the way, let's plug in your Jacob is having a big series this month. It's 400 buy-in, $500,000 guarantee, correct, Jacob?
Yes, sir. That's why I talked about pushing the issue. You know, being the small rooms in the area, you know, we fight Hard Rock, you know, and then Derby's second line, and then us and Silks, who are owned by the same company, are third and fourth. But I'm willing to keep pushing the issue. We started with 150,000 guarantee, then we went up to 250, and then this month we're doing a 500,000 guarantee. And you won't see a 500K guarantee at Hard Rock like ever, which I just don't understand. I feel like they could do $1 million guarantee like at least a couple times a year, and they just don't do it.
The market is here. The market in Tampa is huge. You build a guarantee, they're going to show up for sure. And it's only growing. By the way, if you want to shoot a commercial towards the end, like a minute and a half, you explaining everything about the tournament once we wrap up everything. But let's move on. We have a rapid fire questions for Matt. If you could have dinner with any poker player, living or dead, who would it be?
It's going to be Mike Sexton. I love the guy. I mean, I went to so many dinners with him already, but the last one that I went with him to was just like, you know, the 50 hours before that I've been with him. And he tells the same stories, and I could listen to him all day long. I mean, it was so great. I miss Mike Sexton so much. And, you know, I'm glad that we honor him with the WPT Champions Cup, but it's, yeah, it still kind of makes me sad to think that he's not with us anymore. He's a great character. He's a great person. He's a great poker ambassador, and just one of the most genuine, nicest guys I ever met. And was very happy to call him my friend.
Yeah, that was a big loss for the poker world for sure.
Yeah.
The weirdest thing you've ever seen happen at a poker table, and I'm sure you've seen it all.
The weirdest thing was happening when I was actually at my first casino at Garden City. It's not a very good story. Let's just say that. But a lady walked in and dropped her baby in the middle of a poker table and said, "You take care of him."
Wow, that's sick. Yeah. She dropped the baby and walked off, and she said, "You take care of him."
Yeah, because he was in there playing poker every day. I don't really love that story, but that is the weirdest thing I ever saw.
When you said kid, I'm thinking baby. So you're talking about an
baby. No, a baby.
A baby.
Yes.
Wow. It's crazy. If you weren't involved in the poker industry, what career do you think you'd have pursued?
I mean, to be honest, I love running golf tournaments. I have my annual golf tournament coming up next week in St. George, Utah. I would love to do something in the golf industry because I think I'm a great golf tournament director. So I'm going to choose that.
You ever thought about, like, how much do you get coaching in golf? That's the one sport I've never got involved in, and I know it will be a lot of fun. But have you ever thought of going pro or something? Was there?
Hell no, I'm terrible. No.
Terrible. Why do you think it's terrible? What's the?
I just think I'm bad.
Hand-eye coordination.
I do one thing well. I putt well. That's it.
Putt well. Okay.
Yeah.
What's the craziest prop bet you've witnessed at a WPT event?
That's a good question. Wow. Well, let me just say that my friend Mike Norrie, speaking of golf, lost. My two best ones involve him. He lost a bunch of money, which was a big, big loss for him for one day. Let's just say it was about $2,000. And we were at a golf course called, I forgot the name of the course. Let's just say it was Black Gold is called, which is about 24 miles away from the Commerce. And we were joking and laugh with him, and we told him, all right, if you walk back to the Commerce, you don't have to pay your debt.
Which is how far?
24 miles.
Oh, shit.
Through some of the not nicest areas in Los Angeles. Let's just say that.
He has to walk in the hood.
And he goes, well, I'll do it. And then as soon as he accepted, we're kind of like, shit, he's really going to do this. We're like, well, damn, we just won all this money. Now we're not going to get it. But we're like, yeah, he's not going to do it. Next thing I know, he was walking out the door, and he walked all the way back.
Oh, how much was the debt? How much debt he cleared?
$2,000. $2,000, yeah.
$2,000, okay.
So he did that, and not only that, he while he was walking, we were messing with him, and I was putting on social media. If you see this guy, I put a picture of him there. He has $10,000 in his pocket. Go get it from him.
Oh my God!
He got so mad at us, and I have a picture of him laying on the floor when he got to the Commerce.
Did he make it?
He made it. 24 miles.
No issues on the way? No, he didn't. He wasn't.
No, he didn't have any issues. Matter of fact, one guy was reading my messages and found him on the street and handed him some water and stuff like that. So took good care of him. But he's also the guy that agreed to eat $1,000 worth of McDonald's in 36 hours. And if he sounds not like it's not that difficult, but it was impossible. And he got through about $80 worth and quit.
36. You guys spent 36,000 on.
Yeah, there was actually $1 million bet on this, and people won and lost hundreds of thousands of dollars on this.
How much food did you guys buy with 36,000 from McDonald's?
Oh, we started off with like I think $150 worth, and got through about $80 worth of it. And
but you guys actually put an order for 36,000?
What's that?
$1,000.
$1,000 worth of McDonald's in 36 hours.
36 hours.
I heard $36,000. I'm like, wow, you would have to give McDonald's 2 weeks to prepare.
Yeah, no. $1,000 worth.
$1,000 worth. Still a lot of
fun. Well short.
Share a memorable interaction you've had with a fan during a tournament, which I'm sure there's a lot of fans of Matt Savage.
Oh man, it's always great. It's always great whenever I go anywhere around the world and somebody walks up to you and says, "Hey, I really wanted, to say thank you for helping me with this ruling in my home game, in my private game, and can I take a picture with you?" Something like that. It's always a pleasure. This happened just earlier today here in Montreal. I'm always a fan of poker players because, like I said, I know it's not an easy profession. So please, if you see me out on the road and seen this and you want to say hello, I would love it. I want to hear your story as well. So, I'm a fan of anybody that's a fan of mine. That's for sure.
That's what makes you great, Matt. The down-to-earth part. Very down-to-earth. If you could add one celebrity to a WPT final table, who would you bring or who would bring the most entertainment value?
Who would bring the most entertainment?
So let's say there's a feature table, final table, and you want to bring one celebrity for entertainment value. Who would that be?
Oh, I want to be somebody funny. So to go with probably my favorite comedian. Let's see, Dave Chappelle's my favorite comedian. So I'm going to say Dave Chappelle.
Dave Chappelle?
Yeah, he's amazing.
I wonder if he plays poker.
I don't think so. No.
Your ideal poker soundtrack for a long tournament day.
Oh, that's a good one. I have a lot of playlists. I'm going to say anything but country. So ABC, anything but country.
I agree with you on that one.
Can't stand it. And my favorite band of all time is Rush. So let's go with the Rush soundtrack.
Nice. I like it. We have a questions here in the chat on StreamYard, the people that are watching us. Andra pitched an idea yesterday, a crazy idea. Instead of mystery bounty, she pitched an idea of a mystery structure. So you buy into the tournament and you don't know what the structure is. It could be, and the structure changes. So one level could be 15 minutes and the next level could be like 1 hour and different blinds. So I'm like, Andra, but like pros would not show up to this tournament because we want to know what we're getting into. Yeah. But I mean, I guess it will be fun. She said
that'd be fun. I've thought of doing things with a pinwheel, like a 15-minute level,
each level,
level, stuff like that. You could do, but you couldn't go from like playing, 3 and 6,000 down to 1 and 200. Wouldn't work. You'd have to leave all those 100 chips on the table.
Exactly.
Like
you can't go backwards.
Yeah. I'm always out for new different things. So yeah, Andra's got some good ideas.
Well said, Andra. She's in the background. Andra, if anybody here wants to come on camera, guys, let us know in the chat.
Yeah, don't worry about you coming on that voyage next year. Send Mark. He can come in your stead.
Then she made a comment here when we're talking about rebuys. She said it creates a situation for recreational players where they shouldn't play a tournament. They can't afford to rebuy.
Right. I understand that. But there are a lot of recreational players that have a lot of money and fire a lot of bullets too. So, you know what I mean?
True. Nikki Giroux, she's in the background watching. Shout out to Nikki. She said, she's asking about your 3 favorite players to watch and 3 favorite to play at the same table as. So 3 players to actually watch play poker and 3 to actually play with.
3 to actually watch. I mean, I love Phil Ivey. He's one of our WPT ambassadors. I love watching him play. Obviously, he's not very talkative, but at the same time, he's fun to watch. One of my favorite players is Shannon Shore. I'm always a big fan of his. He's always entertaining, but to me, he's just such a nice guy. I'd love to see him play. And then I would say my 3rd favorite player to watch play. Gosh, anybody that's funny. I like funny players. Cuz, let's bring Cuz in there.
Oh, did you see the podcast that I filmed with Cuz?
Oh yeah, it's good stuff.
Cuz was high on like 3 different drugs on stream. Nikki asks again, who in the past year does he believe have improved the most in their game? Are you follow poker? I mean, I know you're
I do. Yeah, I follow poker when I can. I don't get a full chance to watch all the streams that are out there. But most improved, Jesse Lonis. This guy's crushing it everywhere.
Yeah, he's a beast. I'm a fan for sure. Yeah. Amazing. What do you think about the Tice Becker crossbook?
Yeah, I don't care much about that because there's so many rules and stuff like that. The way it originally came out, this is going to be awesome. It's going to be great. And then they got into all these rules and how they can do this. They can't play this. They have to show up at this time. And if they show up late, and it's just,
Oh, really? They made rules even about showing up late?
Yeah, because like, let's say I was going to play the same event as you, and then the player shows up and he has a chip lead. No, I'm not going to play that event now. Or if the guy shows up and he finds out that you busted that event, he goes, okay, I'm going to go play that event. Right?
I see.
Basically,
so whatever to create edges on each other.
Yeah.
I've had Becker on the podcast and we discussed it. We discussed the rules, but that wasn't in the rules at the time. That was like a month ago. So
I'm not sure. I'm not even sure of all the rules. When they started getting into all that, I said, forget it. I'm out.
Yeah. Andra said, I've been wondering why the Hard Rock Tampa guarantees are so low. If they are doing it to lower attendance to leave cash tables available. Well, the Hard Rock is always have an issue about table availability. They always want to leave. I think he gets only 20 tables for tournaments, and all the other tables are left for cash. So table availability is definitely an issue at the Hard Rock.
Yeah, I mean, and in the end, that's what they're for. That's what those tables are for. They're for cash games.
Yeah.
I'm sure Jacob, if Jacob had a room full of cash games full every day, his tournament job would be gone.
Jacob is trying. He just has a logistical issue right now with the new tournament he's running. They partnered with the 2 rooms, the Silks and TGT. So they're going to have some flights at TGT, some flights at Silks to be able to accommodate everybody. The main issue is having a good floor staff for the Savage average. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I love it that the floor has to be more involved. Like the blinds aren't going up if they don't change, but that's the other beauty of it too. Let's say they go 1 player above, so the average goes higher than the next level. It doesn't matter. They can change it the next hand. As long as somebody's attentive and watching the floor, it works out really well. I promise you, if you get a chance to play one somewhere in the world or somewhere soon, do it because Jacob, you'll really appreciate it as a floor staff.
We'll run one here just for you.
Yeah, you should definitely give it a shot.
Yeah, I'm a fan of it already.
Yeah.
Andra said she thought of it while possibly drinking wine. The mystery structure.
That's funny.
Story checks out.
I got 2 quick questions for you. And it might be kind of off the wall, but how do you deal with like body odor and weed smell on players?
Yeah, that's actually an other one that they came up with on WSOP. And basically, you really have to have a strong floor person, have a strong presence, and just tell people, hey, look, take them to the side, and and I never begrudge any other player coming in and telling me that. I'm happy that they do it away from the table generally, but yeah, you have to have that tough conversation with the player. You say, hey, you need to go either change, stop what you're doing, or you need to go take a shower. You're not going to be allowed to play here with that smell. And it's something that I don't love doing myself, and but I will, and I have done it in the past. I'll usually send Justin Hammer to go do it myself, but yeah, it's something that you have to look out for the other people in your tournament and other people in your events and the other people in your poker room. So it's important that you have some code of conduct, and I think that's part of it.
That's hard. Like an event, like big events, like the WSOP, for example. How are you going to control people smelling like weed on break? If you go outside, everybody's smoking. Like a big majority of players are smoking weed. Good luck.
It's legal in Nevada now, but not in public spaces. But yeah, I mean, it's very tough to control. That's been I would say, an issue forever in poker since I can remember.
Would you ever move a player that's complaining about it if you don't think it's a big deal?
That I would not do. I would do something with a player that's doing the offense. If not, then you have somebody saying, "Oh, I don't want to play with that player, so he smells," or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then I know your team no broken ankle. How's that going for you? No racks on the floor.
Yeah, I did make a video. You should post that video up, Carl, in this thing. I made a video for the racks for all the floormen out there that have stepped on the racks. They know what I'm talking about. For all the players that have stepped on racks, it's happened. I promise you, guys. It doesn't take much effort to take those racks off the floor. And people that
we're all team no broken ankle.
And I'm telling you, it's made a huge difference. I've had people say, floor people, staff, send me messages, tell me in person that it's made a massive difference in their room. So I'm going to keep on that one, keep promoting it.
If you could design a themed poker tournament, what would be the theme and how would it impact the game?
A team poker tournament?
A theme, like a theme.
Well, that pajama party we had on the voyage was pretty awesome. I can tell you that.
Is there any footage of it?
Oh, yeah. Anywhere? A lot of footage out there. Yes. Yeah, go check that out. That's Robin Poker has this whole series going on WPT Prime. You'll see a lot of it on that.
I'm going to share the screen. I've never seen this video, by the way.
You've never seen it? Come on.
No. We're going to watch it together here.
You got to turn the music up. Start it from the beginning.
That's a good one. Do you wear glasses when you play?
Sometimes.
Nice.
I think that should win video content of the year last year, to be honest.
It should go viral.
I have one last question, Carl, real quick.
Yeah, sure.
With Poker Atlas, I don't know how much you know about them, but we use Poker Atlas here, and they're changing a system that's going to allow you to have like a shot clock. How do you feel about the shot clock in like a lower buy-in tournament?
You asking Carl or me?
No, you.
Oh, I love it. And first of all, I don't want to call it a shot clock because that's a negative connotation to poker. They're not taking a shot. It's an action clock. We're using it here. And I love it. I think it really, recreational players that have played with it, they get a little freaked out about it at first, but once they use it, they love it. And, these things, this WPT 500, the Prime Championship, and our main tour championship that we're doing, they have loved it. I mean, it's been adopted. We use it in all of our events, and it really speeds up. We're actually using 15 seconds pre-flop and 30 post-flop on the bubble, and it's worked out really, really well. So I'm very happy with it, and I'd love to see more people go with it.
What software do you use?
Protection Poker Action Clock. It's designed by Kevin Quintanilla from the Gardens Casino. It's called Protection Poker Action Clock.
All right. Awesome.
Andra asked, did you talk about the changes to the payouts like Prime, etc.?
Yeah, so Andra is actually one of the people that really, got me to think a different way about payouts. And we had the WPT Prime Championship last year where we had over 10,000 entries. And yes, the payouts were big. The first place was 1.3 million for a 1K buy-in. something that's never been done before, the biggest first place payout for a 1K buy-in. And I liked the payout, and I had designed the payout. But what her complaint was that as you get deeper into the tournament, like she made the top 3.5%, I believe, like 350th place. And she got like 3.5 times her buy-in. So in a normal tournament, that would be great. That wouldn't be a big deal. But when you're playing with 10,000 entries, it doesn't seem like enough. So what I've designed is our new WPT payout has less payouts, but bigger jumps. So like if we were paying, 100 players, maybe 80 through 100 are the same amount. And then maybe 60 through 80 are the same amount, but the jumps are bigger, right? So then you might go up by 8s after that. So the way I did it is that you're getting paid. It's a little flatter, a little less for first place, but that bottom payout is always going to be 2x what you paid to the buy-in. So let's say it was 1,000 plus 100. So the bottom spot would be $2,000, right? And then you would go up to like 1,300. And in the old payouts, you would go up like 11, 1140, 1180, 1240. So now it would just go 1,000, 1,300, 1,600, and like that. And so you got to those deeper levels, those bigger payouts, and you really make a better score if you're getting to that level. And so I could appreciate that. She, was instrumental in making that happen, and it worked out good.
Interesting. I'm a fan of that. You still pay out 12.5%, right? WPT payout 12.5%?
Yeah.
Okay. She said that was
if I'd use that payout for the championship, the same amount of entries we had last year, first place would be like 1.1 million versus 1.378,
right?
Which affects one player, right? Whereas like it was literally, I think it was like 12 players will get less money, and the other 1,000 players will get more money.
You just said that 200K over the bottom, basically.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. I'm a fan of that payout. Anything else you want to add, Jacob? It was a good podcast, guys. We discussed a lot of topics. Anything else you want to add, Matt?
Nope, all good. You can always reach me at Savage Poker on X, and I'm pretty accessible any other way as well. Happy to do this, and thank you for doing a great job, Carl. Appreciate it.
I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, Jacob. Look forward to meeting you out at the TDA Summit. And again, if you want to send anybody out there, please do so. Go to pokertda.com. Registration is now open.
I'm going to make it, like I said, this summer. Thank you so much, Matt, for coming on and giving us your time.
You got it. And go to WPT.com because we have a lot of new different stuff coming up on there. And my schedule is always busy, but happy to always be a part of the WPT.